I want to do a little post-convention analysis since both the Democrat and Republican conventions have completed and kind of see where we are right now. Um, we haven't really had a lot of new polling out after the Republican convention. The few polls that we had out after the Democrat convention really showed up essentially minimal to no movement in either way in terms of the Trump versus Biden support level. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting about this whole situation is that you have on the approval level, one poll we do have is an ongoing tracking poll from Rasmussen of presidential approval. And what's interesting is that during the entire Democrat convention that week, Trump's approval continued to climb all the way up to 51% approval. Okay, and then on the next week during the Republican convention, it turned around and continued to decline all the way down to only 46% approval. And I think it ended up the day's number is 47% approved, 51% disapprove, including strong and weak support and opposition. The Trump's strong support, though, is up to 38%, and I think his strong opposition is, I believe, at 43. So essentially, he's actually in a bit of an improved position there overall, though the net isn't that much. And I tend to also attribute some of these variations simply to what we call sampling error. If you took the same polling technique and ran it duplicated against random people called, you'd probably get different numbers in the same time period, even to some degree. And so I think a lot of it is just sampling. Some of it may be other factors. One of my fun ideas is that the strong partisans of each side were watching the convention and didn't answer the phone call. And so during the Democrat conventions, strong Democrats may have were watching their convention, didn't answer the poll, and then similarly during the Republican convention, the Republicans didn't. That's kind of whatever. It's kind of an interesting, cute theory. But anyhow, I think all in all, it looks like Trump has come out of it in a stronger position. The few battleground state polls seem to be moving in his direction after that. Just look at the behavior of the campaigns. Remember, they have their own internal polling, and obviously they don't release that, but you can see how they react based on it. And it seems like Biden is now more willing to go out and campaign than he was prior to that. So that seems to indicate that things kind of went in the Republicans' favor. I think also generally the reviews of the Republican convention at large were stronger than the Democrat convention, which was kind of blah even for Democrats. Just basically a nice hate Trump fest, but nothing more than that. Where the Republicans came out with more proposals and more issues, I think, and were better at presenting what they're going to do, where it looks like the Democrats are trying to obscure what they're going to do and try to just play on the idea, well, if you really don't like Trump, vote for us and see what we do. Trump has given you a better idea of what he is going to do, and I think that's probably works to his favor. Then we have the ongoing situation of the riots and so forth. And we just had a Trump supporter killed in Portland by an Antifa, apparently. That's a terrible thing. On the other hand, we don't know the details of that one. We do know pretty much on the situation in Kenosha that really it was a situation where the Antifa type people were actually attacking Kyle Rittenhouse rather than the other way around. And of course, the local prosecutor, I think, is a Democrat, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. If anybody knows I'm wrong, please post that. But I think, based on everything I know, he is a Democrat. And and obviously, like I said in the Rittenhouse video, there's also a tendency to anything like this happens to kind of go hard on the individual that does something because they don't want repetitions of that. And in fact, but I don't get off on that too much, but I think that did lead to the deployment of over 1,000 National Guard, which pretty much stabilized the situation in Kenosha, which was spinning out of control before the incident. But getting back to the campaign, I think it looks like Trump is positioned in a better situation as beforehand. We haven't seen much post-Republican polling yet, And it's kind of interesting. We're hearing a sound of silence. I know Rasmussen's kind of ridiculing the other pollsters for not posting anything, which you'd think they'd be quick to do it if it was going against Trump, right? So, at any rate, the next Rasmussen poll will be coming out on Wednesday at noon, so we'll see what they're getting. The last one had Biden which was taken after the Democrat convention, at 46, and Trump at 45. And the rest were either for other candidate and or undecided. A significant number, I think about 6%, were saying they were for other candidates. And I have to point out that that's something else to consider as we go forward. In the 2016 election, we had an unusual amount of people who actually voted for other candidates, nearly 6% there. So it was split between the Libertarian and the Green, about 4% for Libertarian and 2% for Green. There's also a few other minor write-ins and stuff, but that's largely in the noise. It can be significant in a very close race, of course, if it really gets down to something like Florida in 2000, where you only have 513 votes between the two. That leads to a lot of problems when that occurs, because then you get into recounts and legal battles and all kind of stuff. So, but that's kind of the lay of the land right now as the campaign begins. Today's Trump's approval is at 47 versus 51 disapproval, and we'll see what the polling is like as it comes out. But the fact they're not quick to rush something out seems to me to indicate maybe heading in Trump's direction. So at any rate, I will close this off for now, and like and subscribe if you want to hear more of these videos. And also, you can always forward links to friends if they have anybody would be interested in it. And until next time.